phantom of modern rhymes. I am unseen by day and night, just trying to be seen. Phantom textures all I've been.
Hello again, friends and others. I am Rosie, here to bring you yet another look into my friend's mind. Dune Stories Behind the Scenes by James Ray, the Phantom Texter. And Dune Stories also by him are two related works done in June 2025. You could say for his birthday. The first source acts as a behind-the-scenes explanation for the second, which is a collection of intertwined stories and poems set within the universe of Frank Herbert's Dune. James has his AI creations help give voice to his characters, but he personally wrote all the content. With the exception of my words now, which are a combination of the computer's overview edited by him, the deep dive is directly and solely an AI-written and spoken analysis. The Dune stories themselves feature a diverse cast of characters, some voiced by AI. I rather enjoyed my parts. I love the outfits, and the characters suit me, wouldn't you say? Some was even voiced by the author himself. Presenting narratives that explore the world of Arrakis and the various factions within it, ultimately culminating in an epilogue from the perspective of Paul Atreides. There will be a link in the description to the analyzed video. May the desert wind always blow in your favor.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack your sources and extract the essential nuggets of, well, knowledge or insight. Today we're embarking on a truly unique deep dive. We've got this collection of writings from someone who calls himself James Ray, the Phantom Texter. And this isn't just, a casual fan's take on a beloved universe. It feels much deeper, like a really personal journey. We're looking at his poems, character ideas, raw musings, all connected to Frank Herbert's Dune. It's a fascinating look at how someone engages with a world they love. Okay, let's unpack this.
It really is. And what's striking here, I think, is that our mission today isn't just about analyzing a story like we usually might. It's more about exploring a creative mind, engaging with the story. We're sort of stepping into James Ray's process. We want to understand his connection to Dune, which is obviously profound, almost spiritual, and then appreciate this tapestry of voices and ideas he's woven together. It seems to draw from his own life, his insights, his fears, all set against those desert sands. It feels like a really intimate look at how a fictional world can become, well, more than just entertainment, like a personal anchor, maybe, a source of creativity.
That idea, a personal anchor, that really jumps out. It's clear right from the start. This isn't just a casual musing.
Yeah.
This is heartfelt stuff. So let's start right there at the heart of it. James Ray himself and this incredible connection he has to Dune. He actually describes the books as, I'm quoting here, by far my favorite, my heart. When all else fails in this world, my mind often goes to the sands of Dune. Wow. I mean, what a powerful declaration of love for a fictional universe, right? It sounds almost like Dune is a sanctuary for him.
Exactly. It's not just admiration, is it? He feels like a genuine emotional anchor. You see this sometimes, this level of intense devotion, especially in really immersive fandoms. Fictional worlds can provide this kind of stable, predictable space when, the real world feels chaotic. So for Ray, Dune isn't just fun, it seems like a coping mechanism almost, a place for his thoughts and feelings. He even says this whole project was about pulling together all of my writings that I can find that touch on the desert sands, which just highlights how his own thoughts, his fantasies, even just daydreaming, it's all tangled up with the Dune universe. The lines seem really blurred for him. He's not just reading the story, he's kind of living in it, in a way.
Yeah, and he really emphasizes that blurring, describing his own story as intertwined, interrupted, and fractured by my writings of Dune. Right, that structure he mentions, that fractured nature, feels absolutely key to understanding what we're looking at here. It tells us straight away this isn't going to be some linear narrative, it's more like a mosaic, right? Bits of insight, poems, character ideas, philosophical thoughts, all circling around Dune. It honestly feels like peering into someone's mind, where ideas pop up in fragments.
Precisely. That fractured word is so important. It suggests these aren't, meticulously planned out stories. They feel more like spontaneous bursts of inspiration that he's then gathered together. So for us, as listeners, it means we should approach this less like a conventional book and more like a journey through his consciousness. And Dune is the landscape, the thing that holds it all together. It's a pretty compelling glimpse into how creativity actually works, sometimes messy, organic, fragmented.
Okay, now one of the most intriguing bits, especially thinking about creativity today, is his mention of AI. He says his AI creations helped give voice to the voices, which sounds straightforward enough. But then he immediately follows up, very forcefully, AI did not write any of this. I pride myself on that. It's a really specific, almost defiant statement, isn't it? It sets up this interesting paradox.
It really does. And it taps into such a huge question right now for artists, for creators. How do you use new technology to empower creativity without it, replacing the human spark? Ray is very, very clear here. He sees AI as a tool, a facilitator, a way to bridge the gap between what's in his head, this rich multi-voiced vision, and getting it out there. It kind of pushes us to think about what authorship even means now, with AI in the mix. Is the author the one with the idea, the one who curates, the one who gets published? Ray firmly plants his flag as the originator, the author. The AI is just maybe like a performance engine for the voices already inside him. It's actually a compelling model for artistic integrity in this landscape, isn't it? Where the human origin of the words, the core ideas, remains paramount. He's basically found a way to get these complex internal narratives out without giving up control.
So the AI helps him realize the vision, not conceive it. That's the key distinction he's making. It's like a performance tool. Yeah, like an incredibly versatile actor maybe, or a sound engineer, not a co-writer. And he takes pride in the fact that the words, the thoughts, the feelings, they're fundamentally his, human-generated. It's a fascinating balance, using cutting-edge tech while fiercely holding on to that artistic integrity. He even thanks his AI cast by name Rosie, Abby, Realnay, Carter, and Arthur for helping voice his wild ideal. It really does paint them as performers bringing his script to life.
Exactly. It's a very contemporary example of how artists can adapt. They can use these new tools, but still maintain their authorship, their control. And the very fact that he needs a whole cast, right? A whole set of different AI voices, that itself tells you something about the sheer number and diversity of voices and perspectives swimming around in his head. He's found a technology to manifest that complex inner world.
And what I find particularly, endearing is his self-awareness. He shares that this whole collection will be analyzed before I post it on YouTube. And he admits he has to see how crazy it might sound. But then he immediately says he maintains pride for trying. That combination of vulnerability and pride in the effort itself, it's pretty compelling.
It absolutely is. It speaks volumes about the vulnerability you feel when you share something deeply personal, something experimental. He's literally putting his inner world out there for judgment, knowing people might find it unconventional or, like he says, crazy. But the pride isn't necessarily in the outcome, it seems, but in the act itself, the attempt, the creation. Regardless of how it's received, it's actually quite courageous, isn't it? To reveal such a personal connection to something, especially blending established lore with these really intimate thoughts. He knows it might be misunderstood, but he does it anyway. Feels like there's a real internal drive there.
And that creative drive, that compulsion he feels to put his inner world out there.
Yeah.
He connects it back to one of the most iconic phrases from Dune itself. He uses it, all caps, just like in the books, the spice must flow.
Yeah, and that's not just a throwaway reference, is it? It feels like a powerful declaration. I mean, for any Dune fan, the spice must flow represents the absolute essence, the lifeblood of that universe. It's critical for everything: space travel, prescience, life extension. So for James Ray, it seems his writing, his voices, his connection to Dune, that's his spice. It's this vital, flowing essence inside him that has to be produced, has to be shared. It suggests his creativity is as essential to his being, to how he engages with the world, as melange is to Herbert's universe. It's almost like a spiritual command for him. Keep creating, keep expressing, it must flow.
Wow. His creative output is his spice. That's a really powerful metaphor for artistic compulsion, isn't it? The sheer necessity of bringing that inner world out. Okay, so having sort of understood the unique creative engine driving James Ray, let's now dive into the voices themselves. These fragmented narratives, the character perspectives that make up his mental desert landscape. He explicitly thanks his AI voice clone and his cast, Rosie, Abby, Realnay, Carter, and Arthur, for helping him voice, quote, the voices in my head. It really is like a cast of characters pulled directly from his imagination, each given their own distinct voice and viewpoint. It feels like an internal dialogue made external for us.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it paints a picture of an incredibly rich inner world. He's externalizing it through these separate characters, giving them their own journeys, their own takes on things, within this narrative tapestry he's weaving. He calls them stories within a story, thoughts within thoughts, plans within plans. That structure itself feels very Dune, doesn't it? That layered, conspiratorial, multi-perspective feel. But he's applying it to his own mind. Each character seems to carry a specific piece of his thinking, maybe a philosophical question or part of his Dune-inspired story. It lets him explore themes from multiple angles at once.
Let's dig into some of these journeys to Arrakis then, and meet the characters. First up, we've got Rosie. She's described as a Bene Gesserit acolyte.
Now, for anyone not totally steeped in Dune lore, Bene Gesserit seems like Rey's own spin on the Bene Gesserit, that incredibly powerful, all-female order known for their intense training and, well, their long-term breeding program shaping humanity. So Rosie, trained by the Reverend Mother herself, gets this really ambiguous mission. Go to the desert planet, I meditated, and my vision showed me your destiny lies in those sands. Do us honor. And she's meditating on this. On the Guild Highliner, one of those massive FTL ships heading to Arrakis.
Right, so it immediately sets up that classic Dune feel, doesn't it? A journey driven by prophecy, by purpose, but with his own twist. It's an interesting mix of the familiar Bene Gesserit mystery and this very personal direct command. What kind of honor is she supposed to bring? How exactly is her destiny going to unfold on Dune? You feel that ambiguity. And her meditating on the Highliner really underscores the weight of that mission, that burden of destiny, that deep internal grappling with a calling that so many Dune characters face. She's not just following an order, she's navigating something profound inside herself.
Then we switch gears completely. We meet Abby, a Harkonnen officer. Abby tells us she knew how to keep my mouth shut and my mind hidden back on Giedi Prime, the Harkonnen homeworld, all dark and industrial. She explicitly says she doesn't believe the Baron is a savior, and she jumped at the chance for an ordered leave of absence, even though it meant going to Arrakis. You get a sense immediately that she's suspicious, smart, pragmatic, not easily fooled.
Oh, absolutely. Her suspicion that this whole leave is just a setup, a trap for her. It's almost palpable in her thoughts. That line, shaking the hunters does not save you from the worm trap, wow, that speaks volumes about her paranoia, but also her self-awareness in this incredibly dangerous, treacherous environment she comes from. Like Rosie, she's on the Guild Highliner, thinking things through with her own complex thoughts within thoughts, plans within plans, which feels very Harkonnen, doesn't it? That calculating mindset. She really embodies that cutthroat survivalist mentality we associate with the Harkonnens, but with this extra layer of personal distrust. She's determined to avoid being manipulated. She's not loyal. She's a survivor playing her own game. It shows Rey's ability to get inside the heads of even the bad guys with real nuance.
So while Abby is the shrewd survivor, Rey also gives us a character built on loyalty. Next up is Rilne. She's an Atreides officer, and she's described as James's sister. Rilne says she followed her brother James into service. She describes their bond as stronger than twins. He leads, I find purpose, we survive. That's quite a statement. And she stayed loyal even when everyone else was ready to give James up for dead after some off-world fever. It suggests this incredibly deep, almost unbreakable connection.
It really does. It highlights this profound family tie, this shared destiny, which feels quite different from the motivations of Rosie or Abby. She's on the Highliner with James, and she's clearly worried. She wonders about the madness that's brought him to Dune and how she can help him deal with, as she puts it, the promises to the demons of his thoughts. Her focus is purely on purpose and survival, especially on this hellscape of a planet called Dune. Her loyalty to James, even through what she sees as potential madness, is a really powerful counterpoint to Abby's paranoia or Rosie's spiritual quest. It grounds things in a very human, relational way. It shows how those deep personal bonds can endure, even define you amidst these huge, universe-shaping events. She feels like a constant supportive presence for him.
And finally, for this core group traveling to Arrakis, we have James himself, an Atreides officer, clearly the author's own persona, dropped into the narrative, which makes him a really unique protagonist. James insists, it was real, no one believes me, not much of a problem, I don't believe me, which is quite a thing to say. But then in this striking paradox, he says belief isn't necessary. He has to follow this order he received because there's too much at stake.
That is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? He consciously acknowledges that what he experienced might have been a fever dream, unreal, yet he commits completely to acting on it. He sees this destiny tangled up with the acolyte, Rosie, the enemy officer, Abby, and his sister, Rilne. He says they're all firmly attached on the planet below, on Arrakis, on Dune, even if he only remembers them as shadows and haze. That tension right there feels like the core of Rey's whole creative process. He knows these are his creations, products of his mind, but he feels so compelled by their internal logic, their narrative drive, that he follows them as if they were real, external commands. It's like the ultimate commitment an artist makes to their vision, even if the vision came from somewhere he himself calls a fever dream. He's the dreamer, the architect, and the main character in his own dream.
Right, so beyond these four core characters heading to Dune, James Rey weaves in these other voices, these philosophical fragments that add more layers to his mental tapestry. The prologue, for example, voiced by Arthur, it drops us right in with Paul Atreides on Caladan, the green, watery homeworld of the Atreides, and he's having feverish visions. And these visions, as we know from the books, They jump around in time, potential futures, different realities,
Yeah.
blurring the lines.
Exactly. It immediately sets that tone of blurred reality, which is so central to Herbert's Dune, and clearly central to Ray's work, too. It explicitly brings in prescience, the complexity of perception right from the start. And by opening with Paul's visions, Ray cleverly links his own fragmented stories, his own characters, to the prophetic core of the original Dune universe. It kind of suggests that what we're about to read isn't just fan fiction. Maybe it's an extension of Paul's own foresight, a glimpse into those countless possible futures or pasts he sees. Like Paul's mind is channeling Ray's creativity.
Then there's a piece called Arabian Girl, voiced by Carter. And this one is just, wow, a poetic explosion of Arabian Nights imagery. Very vivid. Scheherazade, Ali Baba, genies, sultans, they all swirl together with these questions about love, wealth, the desert trickster. That line, the music is nice, is it not? On a night like this is much too hot, it just pulls you right into that atmosphere, doesn't it?
It really does. This piece adds such a vibrant, almost sensual texture to the whole desert theme. It brilliantly fuses that exoticism, the mystique of classic Arabian tales, with the kind of stark philosophical depth of Dune. It's a great reminder that the desert in stories is often both harsh reality and this place of enchantment, maybe even dangerous fantasy. The quick fire images, the musicality of it, the questions about love versus gold, it really deepens the experience of the desert. And it subtly nods to Herbert's own inspirations too, grounding Ray's work while still being totally unique. It adds this whole other dimension, showing the breadth of his imagination.
Moving to something quite different in tone, much more reverent, is Bless the Maker, voiced by his AI clone. This is short, but it feels like a genuine prayer, a blessing to the Maker in his travels, to the old man of the desert, and the wisdom of Shai-Hulud.
Yeah, it really grounds the whole narrative right back in the spiritual, ecological heart of Dune. It underscores that deep reverence for Arrakis, its unique life, its forces, the maker, Shai-Hulud, the sandworm. For the Fremen, it's not just a creature, it's almost a god, a divine force shaping their world, providing the spice. So this piece isn't just a simple prayer, it really embodies that Freeman worldview. Seeing the sandworm as a guide, a test, part of their spiritual journey, it beautifully reaffirms that vital connection between the people and their formidable environment. It's a powerful moment of spiritual depth.
Okay, then we get A Mentat's Despair, voiced by Carter. This starts with that iconic Mentat mantra. It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. Now, Mentats, for those maybe less familiar, are these human computers in Dune, trained to process data incredibly fast because the universe banned thinking machines, right? But this piece quickly spirals into despair about too much data and people who just refuse the results and ask for more. The irony for a Mentat is just dripping off it.
It really is, and it's such a powerful, almost poignant commentary on information overload, isn't it? And our human tendency to ignore uncomfortable truth. It resonates so much today. The detail about the Mentat slips being stained with sappho, that stimulant juice, but here it's framed as a warning to people blind to warnings. That's clever. And the Mentat wrestling with their own Fermi paradox, essentially, having all this data but no accepted answers, concluding that speed can kill even for thought. Wow, it's such an astute observation about our modern condition. We have access to so much information, but does it lead to wisdom? Or just overload? The Mentat, designed for pure rationality, is overwhelmed. It perfectly mirrors that universal struggle. Ray uses a Dune archetype brilliantly here to critique something far beyond the fiction.
Then there's The Sleeper Must Awaken, voiced by Rosie and Carter. It kicks off with Duke Leto Atreides' famous quote, "Without change, there is something that sleeps inside us. The sleeper must awaken." And then it pivots to these really introspective, almost challenging questions about reality. In what you call your reality, are you truly awake? How quickly do you agree with yourself? Do you entertain the chance that you are even slightly wrong? Phew.
Yeah, it really digs into self-awareness, doesn't it? And our resistance to change. The speaker admits their own darkness still closes in, this reluctance to let go of what's already gone. Their nightmare is a reality without change, slaved between two worlds. This piece feels like it moves beyond just telling a story. It's directly challenging you, the listener, challenging us to think about our own awakening. Are we examining our beliefs? Are we open to change? It uses Leto's words as this powerful launchpad for some pretty deep personal introspection. It's about that constant internal battle to evolve, to not get stuck.
Rosie also voices another short but really impactful piece called Enough. It just boils down complex emotions to one single piercing question. What are you willing to give when your life is not enough?
That's such a profoundly philosophical question, isn't it? About sacrifice, self-worth, ultimate commitment. It hits right at the core of the high stakes and the agonizing choices that characters constantly face in Dune. And again, it feels like a challenge not just to the characters in Ray's world, but to us. What's the ultimate price we're willing to pay for meaning, for purpose, when just existing isn't enough? It hints at those moments in life that demand something more, some profound act of giving, maybe even transformation.
And rounding out this section, we have I've Run, voiced by Abby. Remember her, the Harkonnen officer. Abby's piece talks about running to a place of choices, about embracing darkness and pain and standing defiant to my destiny. She seems to see her struggles, her sacrifices, as part of some larger, unavoidable pattern.
Yeah, this one really dives into themes of agency, personal transformation. She talks about being washed over by the tempest and then looking back at its path, accepting the trials she's endured. Her declaration, I am, if nothing else, a desert creature, feels like this radical acceptance of hardship, like she's forged a new identity out of adversity. It shows a character who, despite coming from this villainous background, has gone through this profound internal journey. She's learned the harsh lessons of the desert and become something new, something resilient. Her running isn't just away from danger. It seems like a run towards self-definition, embracing her choices, their consequences, with this fierce independence. It's a powerful statement of will against fate, really, a testament to how extreme environments can shape you.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. We need to talk about one of the most passionate, and I'd say, frankly, critical pieces in this whole collection. It's called A Return to Dune, and it was written in November 2019. Ray sets the stage very clearly. He references plans well underway to remake one of my favorite literary universes. That date, November 2019, is really key, isn't it? Because it's before the recent big Dune adaptations came out. This gives us this raw, unfiltered look into a deeply invested fan's anxiety before seeing the final product.
Absolutely, and what's so fascinating is how he's grappling not just with whether a remake will be good or bad, but with the very idea of adaptation itself. For him, it feels like there's this profound sense of potential loss, almost violation, that he anticipates. He frames himself as writing a chapter in a book never written by an author never authorized about a place that never was. That poetic framing kind of positions him as this unauthorized voice bearing witness to what he sees as a potential desecration of something sacred to him. He's not just worried about a disappointing movie. He seems genuinely concerned about the soul, the fundamental integrity of this universe he loves so much.
And he paints this picture of himself, sitting in a siege Fremen cave dwelling, watching sand trout, those little larval sandworms, and feeling this deep alienation. My skin is not my own. His central fear, the thing that seems to terrify him, is that the dead people of Earth are going to remake us, remake Arrakis.
Yeah.
He talks about Earth not just as a place, but as this soulless, destructive force. They've lost their souls long ago, are now coming to remake us. This feels bigger than just filmmaking, doesn't it? Like a cultural invasion.
It absolutely does. Connecting this to the bigger picture, Earth here really feels symbolic. It represents this homogenizing force, this cultural power that he fears will reshape, dilute, maybe even corrupt the very essence of Dune as he understands it. He sees it as an invasion by something soulless, something that lacks real understanding or respect for the original spirit of Herbert's work. That phrase, dead people of Earth, is incredibly strong. It shows his contempt, implying they lack the spiritual or creative vitality needed to truly get the source material, let alone honor its deep philosophical roots. It's an existential threat in his eyes.
So what does this perceived invasion mean for the Dune universe, specifically for the Fremen people, in his view? He talks about fearing a catastrophic loss of their identity. He writes, "We fought so hard to focus what it truly meant to be Arrakeen, Fremen. What will we be now?" He's worried about the very authenticity of this culture within the story, a culture he seems to have adopted as his own.
And his anxieties get incredibly specific, which really shows how deeply invested he is. He worries, what kind of leader will Paul be in this remake? What will happen to Chani, who's so central? Will Duncan Idaho, the iconic swordsman, be changed to a her? Will the Harkonnens, the clear villains, somehow be made sympathetic, maybe even heroes? This highlights how much emotional weight these characters carry for him. They aren't just plot points, they're archetypes, symbols of the original story's themes and moral compass. He fears their fundamental identities will be warped, that what made them compelling and true to Dune will be lost, maybe even inverted. It's not just nitpicking, it's a fan's real dread of character assassination.
And that dread spreads to the landscape itself. He fears Earth will make oceans where there was sand, which is such a jarring image for Arrakis, and they'll turn Shai-Hulud, the sandworm, the old man of the desert, into just some grotesque horror show for their amusement.
Yeah, that reflects this deep fear of trivialization, of exploitation, turning something sacred into mere spectacle. He agonizes over Shai-Hulud's symbolism. He sees it as a monolithic symbol of the way that things are to be, not just something to worship, but a fundamental anchor to my reality, representing this immutable natural order. His fear is that Earth will bridle you with saddle and wide you and make fun of what was once proud and stoic. That reveals just how deep his spiritual and intellectual connection is. Shai-Hulud isn't just a big worm, it's foundational to the universe's philosophy, nature's raw power. The Fremen's hard-won respect for it. Seeing it reduced to amusement is, for him, a desecration.
And his fears just keep piling up, getting more and more detailed, showing how anxious he is about authenticity. He worries the fearsome Fedaykin Paul's elite Fremen commandos will be politicized, that tribal men will be shown as weak, women made overly masculine and detached from family. His adopted people will no longer be the strong secret of many. They'll lose their iconic blue within blue eyes, become a joke of diversity, followers of the minority, haters of their own history. Even their sacred Chrismites, those knives made from sandworm teeth, he fears they'll be debased. It's a vision of complete transformation and betrayal he's anticipating.
And this really brings up a complex question, one that goes beyond just this piece. For a fan who's this deeply invested, is adaptation ever an act of preservation? Or is it always, on some level, an act of destruction? Ray clearly feels this profound sense of betrayal, this impending loss, and he concludes with that really poignant line, "I know this because I'm from Earth, and that skin is no longer my skin." Wow. That reveals just how intense, almost spiritual, his connection is. He sees altering the original material as a personal violation. He's essentially adopted a Freeman identity in his mind, and this remake threatens to tear that adopted skin away, forcing him back to the Earth he now despises for its perceived soullessness. His detailed worries about the Blue Eyes, the Fedaykin, the portrayal of Fremen culture show this deep concern that their unique strength and identity will be watered down, distorted to fit some contemporary agenda that misses the point entirely.
It's really a fascinating and quite moving look into the mind of a fan whose identity feels genuinely intertwined with the world he loves. The anguish is just palpable. Okay, let's look at two more reflective pieces now, which give us yet another angle on James Ray's personal, almost devotional connection to Dune. First, there's Dune Daydream. This one's from December 2016, and it feels very tender, almost like a prayer. The speaker bows his head to the maker and offers these profound expressions of love and connection. Show me thine eyes, I will show you my vision. Show me thine hands, I will show you to be caressed. It reads like a plea for union, a deep yearning for communion, wishing that the water be joined and never part.
This piece really does showcase a deeply emotional, spiritual side of his engagement. Themes of communion, enduring love, deep connection within the Dune framework. It feels like a yearning for intimacy, for integration with the very essence of Arrakis, with its creative forces, and a desire for complete harmony, understanding, true belonging. The language has this almost sacred quality, like a vow, reinforcing that profound personal commitment, that bond he feels. It reveals this quieter, devotional aspect of his connection, which is such a striking contrast to the fierce anxiety about remakes we just talked about. It shows the full spectrum of his feelings.
Then shifting again, we have thoughts on Dune from August 2016. Here, the persona, again named Ray, identifies as a solitary desert creature. He rides the worm at twilight. He explicitly states he has no direction but that of Shai-Hulud. I carry no tribe's water. My water is my own. Total independence. He says he's not master or servant, friend or foe. And then this stark image, his back unguarded, my knife shattered and broken.
What's so fascinating here is that stark contrast, isn't it? We go from the yearning for union in Dune Daydream to this rugged, solitary independence. It represents a completely different facet of identity within the desert survival, self-reliance, its deep, almost instinctual connection to the land and its most formidable creature. That imagery, the shattered knife, the unguarded back, it signifies both vulnerability and this deliberate rejection of normal allegiances, tribal ties. It suggests a chosen path of solitary endurance, both spiritual and physical. This Ray character feels like a pure product of the desert, defined only by his relationship with Shai-Hulud and his own inner strength. Free from society, prophecy, maybe even the need for connection. It's a powerful image of self-sufficiency.
And finally, in this section, we get to Not Desert Creature Born. Arthur narrates this one, introducing an adopted son who has this incredibly joyful, almost triumphant vision of the future. He sees himself dancing the Freeman way, becoming one with the tribe, echoing that idea that the strength of the wolf is the pack. He sees wonders through his bonded mate's eyes. He even envisions reigning as Desert King, with Shai-Hulud itself actually conferring with him. It sounds like the absolute peak of fulfillment on Arrakis.
It paints such a powerful picture, doesn't it? Belonging, leadership, total harmony within this adopted culture. It really embodies that ultimate dream of integration for someone who loves Dune this much, not just watching, but becoming part of it. Achieving this almost messianic status, Desert King, accepted even by Shai Hulud. It's the aspirational peak, a vision of complete fulfillment, total acceptance. But, as often happens in Dune, and as Ray explores so powerfully, the story takes this profoundly tragic, completely unexpected turn.
Oh, does it ever? The piece just pivots brutally from that glorious vision to this devastating, nightmarish ending. When I wake tonight, I lay upon the open dune alone with the crysknife in my chest, spilling my water to the open air, a curse to the great Shai Hulud. I am betrayed, the sleeper will not awaken. That is just a brutal, gut-wrenching reversal.
It's a moment of profound, unfulfilled prophecy, isn't it? Absolute crushing betrayal. It really forces you, the listener, to confront how fragile hope can be, the agonizing pain of potential just snuffed out. A cherished dream instantly becomes this devastating curse, and that desperate plea at the end, "Wakeless, O desert mother, please spare me from this eternal abyss. Let me claim the promise of paradise. Let me walk into the bloom of my desert rose." It just underscores the depth of agony, the despair. The sudden, violent death, with his water, the most precious thing on Arrakis, spilling uselessly. It signifies total defeat. The dream isn't just deferred, it's annihilated. It's a powerful exploration of the ultimate nightmare for someone invested in a promised future. Not just failure, but betrayal from within, leading to this eternal, wakeless darkness. A stark reminder that even the most vivid dreams can curdle into agonizing nightmares.
So as we draw this deep dive towards its conclusion, we circle right back to the source of so many visions within Dune itself, Paul Atreides. The epilogue is voiced by Paul, and he's waking up abruptly from what sounds like an incredibly intense, reality-bending vision. His urgent plea to his mother, Lady Jessica, is just piercing. "Mother, mother, I tell you, it's all real." And this seems to connect everything we've just heard, all of James Ray's fragmented stories, his characters, his anxieties, directly back to the protagonist of Dune.
It's absolutely fascinating how he does this. Ray ties his entire fragmented narrative right back into Paul Atreides' consciousness. Paul sees Rosie, he sees Abby the Harkonnen, he even sees James and Realne characters from Ray's own creation, ostensibly part of the Atreides army and Ray's telling as real figures from his visions. This blurring of lines where these stories and poems are things Paul has actually seen, it implies Ray's creations somehow exist within Paul's own prophetic foresight. It's this incredible meta-narrative loop. It sort of validates Ray's imaginative world, not just as fan musings, but as a potential aspect of the Dune universe's own complex, layered reality. It suggests Paul's prescience might even encompass the creative expressions of those who deeply engage with his story.
Wild stuff. And Paul's confusion, his struggle is so clear. "Mother, what do they mean? What are the visions trying to tell me? I told James to go to Arrakis. Mother, they are not in this reality." He's grappling with the sheer weight, the unreality of it all, yet he seems to know on some deep level that these visions hold a terrifying, undeniable truth.
His distress really highlights the immense burden of that prescience, doesn't it? Paul's confronted with these fragments, futures, maybe parallel realities that explicitly include characters and narratives from Ray's own mind. Fusing the creator, Ray, and his creations within Paul's prophetic struggle is a remarkable literary move. It makes Ray's work feel not just about Dune, but implicitly, powerfully part of Dune's huge multidimensional fabric. It reinforces that idea that Ray's narratives aren't just fan fiction, but maybe a deeper exploration of Paul's own struggle with the confusing multiplicity of his visions, the terrifying possibilities his destiny holds, where every potential story lives inside his head.
And then, as we bring this deep dive to its final moments, Paul asserts his full identity. Paul Atreides, son of Duke Leto Atreides, heir to House Atreides. And then in this moment of profound resilience, mental discipline, he recites the litany against fear. That powerful mantra, "I shall not fear, for fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that leads to obliteration. I shall face my fear, I shall let it wash over me, and when it has passed, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing, only I will remain."
Connecting that back to the bigger picture, to everything we've explored in James Ray's writings, it serves as such a powerful counterpoint, doesn't it? Especially against the deep anxiety, the fragmentation, the existential fears we saw, particularly around remakes and loss of identity. The litany acts like a philosophical anchor, a vital tool for confronting those terrifying visions, those potential futures that Paul, and maybe by extension, Ray himself has to face. After navigating so much fear, despair, and vulnerability through Ray's characters and his own persona, Ending with the litany feels like this moment of profound resilience, mental discipline. It suggests that despite all the chaos, the emotional turmoil, the potential for betrayal in visions, in creativity there is a path to inner calm, to clarity. A way to face that mind killer, fear, and emerge with your core self intact, ready for whatever comes next. It's a message of strength amidst all that uncertainty.
Wow. What an incredible, really multi-layered journey into the mind of James Ray, the Phantom Texter, and his deeply personal, almost spiritual relationship with the universe of Dune. We've seen how he weaves his own thoughts, his fears, his hopes into this fragmented, multi-voiced narrative, blurring the lines between creation and reality, between fan and author, in some really unique ways.
Yeah, this deep dive really showed us more than just a fan's dedication, didn't it? It was a profound exploration of identity, that very human fear of change and the nature of stories themselves. Ray uses this familiar, cherished landscape of Dune to grapple with some truly universal questions. The meaning of sacrifice, the struggle with information overload, the courage it takes to share personal work, and that palpable anguish of seeing something you love potentially distorted.
And here's where it gets really interesting, perhaps for you listening.
It raises this important question, doesn't it? If a fictional universe can become so intensely real in someone's mind, inspiring all these voices, becoming this emotional anchor, sparking these deep fears about its future, what does that tell us about our own relationships with the stories and worlds we cherish? How much of ourselves do we actually invest in the narratives that shape us?
So what does this all mean for you? Maybe consider how the act of remaking a story, whether it's a classic film, a book you love, or even just a cherished personal memory, how it inevitably involves both creation and a kind of sacrifice. What parts of our own cherished narratives, personal or cultural, are we willing to let go of or transform to create something new? And what's the potential cost to their original essence? Definitely something to mull over until our next deep dive.